For anyone who regularly turns hollow forms, the rate of wood removal is key. Today, I want to test out the Woodcut Pro-Forme in action. After setting the center of the cutting edge and locking in the height of the swivel head, I'm mounting my first blanket piece of dry acacia. It has a few natural voids, and I'm curious to see if the cutter will blow out the wall when it gets close to the edge. To start, I fully close the brass cage to see how it performs with a minimal depth of cut. Even though the acacia is very dry, the shavings don't break up. Instead, they come off as fine curly ribbons. If you look closely at the gap, the brass gauge is set almost flush, allowing the cutting edge to bite into the wood by just a fraction of a millimeter. Now, I'll open up the gauge to about 1 millimeter and see what happens. The cut is significantly more aggressive now. As soon as it touches the wood, the cutter wants to bite hard, and it feels like if the wall gets too thin, it could easily catch and tear a chunk right out of the rim. To adjust this, there's a small hex screw built into the head. Turning it moves the brass gauge back and forth, setting the desired opening relative to the cutter below. By releasing the main locking screw and tweaking the hex screw, you can fine-tune the alignment and ensure a uniform gap along the entire cutting edge. In a way, it really reminds me of setting up a standard hand plane. Now, I'm going to add a slight shear angle to hollow out the walls to my desired thickness more efficiently and comfortably. After about 10 minutes of turning, the cutter becomes much more predictable and you really start to get good feedback from the tool. My movements are getting more precise and the results are far more consistent. I can already say for sure that this cutter is extremely efficient. It produces so much shaving that I constantly have to stop and clear out the shavings blocking the cavity. After connecting the monitor and marking the cutter's edge on the screen, I'm moving to the final stage of the experiment. I want to bring the wall thickness down to 5 millimeters and see if it tears out the wall when the cutter bites into the void. Whether it's due to my lack of experience with this tool or simply because it cuts so aggressively, I form the impression that you can't get a smooth finish with this cutter. It leaves not just tool marks or ridges, but significant step-offs that will take quite a bit of time to clean up with a negative rake scraper. On this blank, I'll only hollow down to the midpoint, right where the natural voids end, to see how the cutter handles an uneven inner surface. Now for the moment of truth with this piece. I'm going to cut through the wall area and pass right across the open voids. As rough and aggressive as the cutter feels when engaging the wood, it doesn't cause any flex or deformation in the workpiece. In the end, I cleared out this very dry, dense acacia remarkably fast without damaging the walls of the vessel. Yes, the surface is quite rough and will take significant effort to refine, but the speed of wood removal is truly impressive. The next blank is a piece of dried maple that I previously rough-turned, coated with PVA glue, and left to dry for 3 months. This example clearly shows that, with the same cutter position and aggressive depth of cut, the shavings don't come off in ribbon curls, but as broken chips and in huge quantities. My main goal here is to core out the wood from the center of the blank as fast as possible, stopping only to clear out the chips packed inside the cavity. Now, I'm going to position the cutter nearly perpendicular to clean out the wood around the neck and shoulder area. Let's see how the cutter performs and how the chain joints handle the load. And the tool handled this task effortlessly. Before moving on to the final blank, I want to resharpen the cutter. In my previous video, I showed how to quickly and safely sharpen it on a Tormek system. I used to think I'd need to refresh the edge before starting every new piece. But even though I've already hollowed out 2 blanks and the edge is still remarkably sharp, I'm going to regrind it anyway and hone it to a razor sharp finish. For the final test piece, I'll be using an unseasoned ash blank. For this experiment, I'll back off the brass gauge by about 2 millimeters from the cutting edge to set it up for the most aggressive cut possible. As I hollowed, it produced such a massive volume of shavings that I had to stop and clear out the cavity literally every 15 seconds. Even though this third blank was the most massive and I could only ramp up the speed to 700 revolutions per minute compared to 1000 revolutions per minute on the previous ones, it turned out to be the most productive run. My movements felt much more natural, and wood removal was extremely fast and comfortable. To wrap it up, if your goal is to quickly hog out bulk material, this cutter is likely one of the most aggressive tools out there. However, when it comes to surface finish, it's a long way from Mike Hunter's carbide cupped cutters. His 6mm cutter, while not built for rapid material removal, runs very smoothly without catches, leaving a clean, exceptionally smooth surface finish.